Hello friends. In last few lectures of professional practices, we have discussed about contract, types of contract and tendering process. What is need of tendering process for fluency in contracting process. Now in this session, we are going to discuss about various terms used in tendering process. Myself, R.V. Zugdar, Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering Department, Sharad Institute of Technology, College of Engineering. First of all, we will see what is tender. It is an invitation from the owner to the contractor to execute some work at specified cost in a specified time. It is published in the form of tender notice in newspaper, notice boards, gazettes, and according to the cost of works. Classification of tenders. Tenders are classified as open tender and sealed tender. An oral talk or written document between the engineer and contractor for certain small jobs to be performed. Sometimes it is advertised also. Sealed tender. It is invited for important or huge projects. Wide publicity is given. Always written documents are made for it. Limited tender. Only a selected number of contractors are invited to quote their rates. Single tender. Invitation is given to only one firm to render a service by quoting their rates. If the quoted rates are high, it will be negotiated to the agreement of the contract. The next type is a rate contract, usually adopted for supply of materials, machine, tools and plants, etc. It specifies the supply and a fixed rate during the period of contract. The quantities are not mentioned in a type of contract and the contractor is bound to accept any order which would be placed before him. Tender form. Tender form is printed standard form of contract giving standard condition of contract, general rules and directions for guidance of contract. It is also memorandum for giving general description of work, estimated cost, earnest money, security deposit, time limit in months, column for signature of contract before submission of tender, signature of witnesses to contractor's signature, and signature of the officer by whom it is accepted. The price of tender form is given on the form. Tender documents. Following tender documents are necessary for tendering process. The notice inviting tenders is a standard approved form of a department. Schedule of quantities of work to be done and materials, tools and plants to be supplied by the department if any. Complete specification of work. One set of approved drawings where necessary. All the documents are signed by contractor page by page. Forwarding letterhead of contractor with blank or other form of earnest money are put in closed cover. Then the cover is closed and dropped on the tender box within the time limit for tender. The name of work and the name of contractor are mentioned on the cover. Information to be given in tender notice. Name of department inviting tender, name of work and location, designation of officer inviting tender, last date and time of receipt of tender, period of availability of tender document, cost of tender document, time of completion and type of contract, earnest money deposit to be paid, date, time and place of opening the tender, and designation of the officer opening the tender. Information to be given in a tender document. The notice inviting tender is specified form like PWD 6, layout plan, location of work, division in which location is situated, schedule of quantities of work, nearest road, railway links, set of drawings including working drawings, availability of materials in nearby vicinity, detailed specification of reference to standard specification for each item of work. Complete architectural and structural drawing is also needed. Schedule of tools and plants and other facilities to be made available by the owner, including the conditions, hire charges, and place of delivery, rate of supply of power and the point of supply, location of water supply point, for completion and progress to be made at intervals of time, conditions regarding employment of technical personnel, weather conditions in the area, and amount of EMD, that is earnest money deposit, and the form in which it is to be paid. Insistence on income tax and sales tax clearance certificate. Amount of security deposits to be paid or deducted from running bills of contract should be notified in the tender call notice. The next document needed is mode of payment for work done. Penalty condition for slow progress and delay in completion of work is also mentioned, and designation of arbitration authority in case of dispute in between owner and contractor or department and contractor. What is quotation? For small jobs, the owner or engineers gives an offer to the contractor for quoting rates for works and supplies required. No earnest money deposit is required with a quotation. Now next term is earnest money deposit. For tendering process, it is most important term. It is the amount of money to be deposited along with the tender document to the department by the contractors quoting a tender. This money is guarantee against the refusal of any contractor to take up work after the acceptance of his tender. In case of refusal, this amount is forfeited. Earnest money deposit of contractor whose tenders are not accepted will be refunded. 1% to 2% of the estimated cost of work is used as earnest money deposit. The next term used in tender notice is security deposit. Security deposit is the amount the contractor has to deposit with the owner before awarding a work after his tender is accepted. This amount to generally 5% to 10% of estimated cost of the project and is inclusive of earnest money deposit already deposited by the contractor along with the tender. This will be refundable to the after the completion of project. No interest is paid on security deposit. The contractor has to fulfill all the terms and conditions laid down in the contract and maintain quality and speed satisfactorily. If he fails to do so, a part of or whole of security deposit is forfeited by the department. If there is any fault in the construction and the contractor refuses to demolish and reconstruct, then the department will carry out that work and use the security deposit from the contractor. Qualification of the contractors. It is most important document for tendering documents. Registration of contractors. The contractor must be get himself registered in the departments or government for which he is interested to take up works. Government contractors are entitled to do government jobs if awarded. Contractors are classified according to the registration and registration fees, and depending on this, they can undertake work up to certain amount. To get a contractor to be registered under certain class, he has to apply to the competent authority. The application should contain the following: current income tax certificate, work certificate for all the works performed during the last 3 years and those in progress, solvency certificate for the appropriate amount, attested copy of deed of partnership and power of attorney on stamp paper if needed, undertaking for employment of class 1 and class 2 staff, application in duplicate with all documents, attested photos of all the partners if any. These all documents are required for a registration for any government authority or government departments. Refund of deposit. The money is deposited under the concerned head of account. They will be refunded to the contractor within 6 months after the completion of work, after satisfying the rectification or defects if any. Now, in this session, we are discussing about tendering terminologies. Now, we will study about opening procedure for tender. All the tenders should be sealed and submitted to the respective officer before the time and date as mentioned in the tender note. At the described date, time, and place, all the received tenders will be opened in the presence of intending tenders or their authorized agents. The rates quoted by various tenders shall be read out by the officer. Scrutiny of tender. After tender have been opened, a comparative statement is prepared in the office of the tender opening authority and signed by him. Then compare the rates of various tenders in respect of each item against the estimated rate. Verify whether contractor has agreed to all the tender conditions. Acceptance of tender. Based on comparative statement, usually the lowest tender is accepted. While accepting the tender accepting authority shall satisfy the following regarding the tenders. First, the financial capacity of each tenderer, capacity to do the work, past record as contractor such as experience, procurement of labor, etc. For valid reason, a tender other than the lowest can be accepted. The fact is to be recorded with full reasons. A report on this to be submitted to the next higher authority. A suitable reason is also mentioned in the comparative statement. The tender accepting authority himself has to sign the comparative statement and record his remarks on it. Two tenders have quoted the same lowest rates when all the tenders have quoted abnormally high rates. Sometimes only one tenderer may respond to the tender call. Now we have studied about process of tendering, acceptance of tendering, and various terminologies used in tendering process. Thank you.